Good evening. I hope that we have all had a nice day, and we would like to start our session. First of all, apologies for those who joined a bit late yesterday because we had a very brief session, but I did manage to share the recording. I hope that it went through. So, as you're waiting for the rest of our colleagues to join, because currently I'm seeing 13 out of I think 19, we can just have a recap of what we did yesterday. And in line with that, I would like just to pick someone. Let me just check on from the list of those who have. Let me check. Okay, I like to pick Salom just on a high level. If you can just highlight whatever we did yesterday. After Salom, I think Philip, you will also add something on top. Hello, I can't hear you. In case you are speaking, maybe. Salom, we can't hear you. I see that you have unmuted, but I can't hear you from my end. Okay, maybe because of time, uh, because we can't hear you, maybe you can leave and rejoin again. That's another option. But I don't know if you can hear us. You can hear me from your end. Maybe you can confirm from the chat. Okay, maybe Gertrude, can you assist Salom just to highlight whatever we did yesterday?
So can you hear me?
Yes, maybe Philip, before you come in, I have requested Gertrude to highlight something that we did yesterday. Then you can as well come in after Gertrude.
Okay.
Okay. Good evening. Can you hear me?
Yes, I can.
Okay. For yesterday, we talked about where data comes from. And we said for traditional data, it could be from just basic customer records. Then for the big data, we talked of like online communities. We get data from Facebook, from Google, from LinkedIn. Then we also talked about the guys who handles data. And for data architect, we said these they create database from scratch, and it's that is for data storage and retrieval. So that is their work. Then we talked of data engineer who uses the work of data architect to prepare data. Now for the analyst. So it's like they do pre-processing, something of the sort. Then we talked of data administrator as somebody who controls the flow of data in and out of the database. And we said if somebody else wants access to data, he or she can be given password. That is for the traditional data, but for big data, I think the access can be automated without necessarily requiring you to request data from access from the database administrator. Yeah, that is what I can remember.
Okay, thank you so much, Gertrude. I think that is a good master of what we learned yesterday. Maybe now, Philip, you can come in and tell us what is there anything new that you learned yesterday?
Yeah. So for me, the new thing I learned yesterday was about the people who handle the data, where you highlighted the difference between data architects and data engineers. Whereas Gertrude has said, data architects deal with raw data, and they basically create a database from scratch, and then they design the way data is to be processed, stored, all kind of manipulations. And then the data engineers, what they do is just they pre-process the data from the work the data architects do. And then another thing is about the administrators. Yeah, and then their work was just to control the flow of data from the database. So that's basically what I learned. Yeah.
Okay, thank you so much, Philip and Gertrude. So, unless in case we have a question, you can always raise your hand. But as said, yesterday we looked at where does data come from. And with that, okay, thank you so much. I see the comments here. So, with that, we have two aspects. One, the traditional data. Secondly, we have the big data, or what I can classify as the modern data. Based on that, um, in terms of where does data come from, we looked at that the traditional data mostly comes from historical records that do exist in the organizations. But when we looked at the big data, or what's called the modern data and so on, we say that this data mostly is the mostly is generated nowadays, and we saw that about 90% of this data was generated in the last 2 years. And mostly the source of this data is social media platforms, among many other sources. We looked at the sensors, we looked at the wearables and so on as some of the point of collection of this data. After that, we started looking at who handles the data. And therefore, we started with the data architects. And we say that these are people who deal with raw data, and mostly they create the databases and maintain them. So we further looked at data administrators and as well as data engineers. But what came up very clearly between the data administrator, sorry, the data architect and the data engineer is that data engineers mostly do pre-processing of data. And initially we looked at what pre-processing of data means. Pre-processing of data means that whichever kind of data that you have in your organization, uh, in raw format, it is not ready for use. You need to pre-process before further analysis. Those are two things. data pre-processing before you do the manipulation, which is the analysis of the data, including visualization and so on. So, having looked at that, we want now to look at data science explaining the past. Data science explaining the past is what we call business analytics or business intelligence. That's data science explaining the past. Is what we normally call business intelligence or business analytics. So, as we see that we have two ways of looking at the data, and mostly you can look at the data by explaining the behavior that already occurred and you have gathered data for it, or you can use the data you already have in order to predict the future behavior that is yet to happen and so on. So before we go at what we call predictive analytics, looking at what happens in the future, first of all, you must be in a position to look at the patterns of behavior of the past, what the past provides. Then, after that, you analyze them to draw the insights. And of course, once you get the insights of what happened in the future, is where now you jump into predictive analytics or forecasting, looking at what might happen in future. So, when we are talking about business intelligence, mostly what it does, it focuses on providing some of the data, uh, or it is trying to answer some of the questions. Like, for instance, if it is in the business, you are looking at, for instance, how many units were sold because it is past historical, in which region were the most goods sold, which type of goods were sold, sorry, which type of goods were sold in which specific region. When, for instance, you are looking at when you are having various marketing strategies and so on, you are looking, for instance, on how did the email marketing performance last quarter in terms of maybe click-through rates and revenue generated compare. Like, what normally happens, let me try to explain further there. Uh, for the purpose of those who are yet to join the industry, um, email marketing mostly, from basic understanding, is whereby you are trying to share your product through email and so on. Nowadays, we have some kind of Google ads that are sent via email. So, and maybe you are trying now to compare the performance of the last quarter in terms of click-through rates and revenue generated, like how many people were able to receive that email and open it in terms of percentage. So based on those people who are able to click, open it, checked on the advert, how many did we convert? Like how many became customers? And in terms of customers, now we are translating it in a revenue, like how much did we make and so on. So maybe you are trying to compare the email marketing performance during the last quarter in terms of click-through rates and the revenue generated. So now you are also trying to look how does that performance compare in the same quarter of last year, what you call same period analysis. Same period analysis, mostly you are trying to see um, last year at this time, this is how the stock market, for instance, was performing. So you are trying to compare, we are in the month of March. Today is March, when is it 16th, if I'm not wrong. Last year, March maybe 16th, how was the prices of maybe Safaricom or telcos in terms of the stock exchange was performing and so on. But so you are supposed to compare, but sometimes you have also consider other underlying circumstances that might affect the performance. These circumstances can both be internal and external and so on. So what we can say is that although business intelligence, or what we call business data, business analytics, it does not have data science in its title, but it is part of data science and not in any trivial sense or so on. Like it is still what I can call as a subset of data science. And that's why you see that even in this session, we have most of the units that you are going to learn together. I don't know if there's a question. Let me check. No, okay. It's not a question. So what we have learned is that business intelligence mostly explains what happened in the past. So it means that you must first of all have some kind of historical data. So after having historical data, you now have to formulate what the problems or the questions that you would like to answer in that business or in any problem that requires some kind of analytics. So the next question is now, what does a business intelligence analyst or a business analytics expert do? And before I proceed further, a business analytics, sometimes it is being confused with a business analyst. Business analyst, what happens with most of the business analysts, you see when a system is being designed in a company, or when a company wants to purchase a new system, first of all, they need to look at the system requirements, the cost, the implications of in terms to the business, in terms of staff adoption, and so on. That's the role of a business analyst. For those people, in case we have anyone here who has done IT, when you look at when you are doing a project, an IT project, you must have a business analyst who assesses the viability of the system. But a business analyst is different from a business analytics expert. A business analytics expert now uses historical data to look at what what happened during that period of time. But you see, what is happening in the market is that most people advertise business analysts, interpret business analysts the same as business analytics expert. That's why in this domain specifically, we tend to call them a business intelligence analyst too, so that we don't confuse a business intelligence analyst with a business analyst. Rachel, I see you try to unmute. Do you have a question? Rachel, do you have a question? I saw that you did unmute. Okay, I think I can proceed. So you want to look at what does a business intelligence analyst do, or what you call the business analytics expert. So what we see is that when we look at, for instance, data science under the general perspective, is that it can be applied to measure on the business performance. But now when we look at for the business intelligence analyst now to achieve what they want, they must employ specific data handling techniques. So, um, so mostly what happens is that the starting point of any project in data science, it must start with data. I think we were able to look at that. I don't know during our first class or the second yesterday. So once you have the relevant data, and highlight the word relevant data, not just any other data. Once you have the relevant data, as a business analyst, such as the monthly revenue, customer data, sales volume, and so on, what now this business intelligence analysts do, first they have to quantify the observations, they have to calculate the key performance indicators, then they have to examine the measures to extract insights from their data. So the purpose of quantifying the observations is to know like how much amount of data am I having. Like if you are talking about maybe the sales volume, if I have Excel before they introduce what you call big power query used for handling big data. By the way, Excel has really improved. It's not the Excel that we used to know. Excel can also handle structured big data. I hope you are able to see big data. We have structured, unstructured, and it was structured and semi-structured. Excel nowadays handles structured big data. So in the past, if I'm not wrong, if the rows in your data set exceeded 4 million, Excel could not handle. But nowadays, we call it big power query, it is able to handle as long as your data is structured. So it is very important for you to quantify the observations. Why is it important? Uh, the main reason is because that one informs you on which tool are you going to handle your data. If it is above 4 million rows and maybe you don't have an Excel version that has BigQuery, it means you have to use Python, or you have to use R, or you have to use what do we call Power BI, or you have to use Tableau, and so on. Another thing, you need to calculate the KPIs, like what are you looking to achieve? What are the points of reporting and so on? Then you have to extract the measures to extract insights from the data. And as we said, is that data science is about telling a story. Do you know why? Irrespective of how we normally say is that irrespective of how complex your model is or your analysis is, at the end of the day, is it able to answer a question? Like, is it able to provide a business solution and so on? Like, you have used Python, R, Tableau, Power BI, and so on to do your analysis. At the end of the day, I just want to pick someone here before I proceed. Anyone who is willing to tell us, like when you are going to the board of management to present your reports, what normal happens? Like anyone who has an experience when normally go and present your analytics reports and so on, what is the board? Is the board interested in your like the language you use and so on? Anyone who has that experience? Anyone who has ever presented? We don't have anybody in management here. Okay, I can just come in, but let us make the sessions more interactive. So what normal happens is that when you are going to present maybe your dashboards and whatever to the board, let me use an example. For instance, you have umbrellas. You have analyzed and found out that during rainy season is when you need to be producing more umbrellas because the demand is high. But now, when you go, for instance, to the board meeting, you are going to tell them, based on this, maybe we need to produce this amount of umbrellas. This is what we need in terms of cost, that we are going to incur a cost of this million. These are the number of employees that we need. The role of the board is to say yes or no, to reject. They are not interested in other operational matters uh, that are involved in. So, as I said, that also data science is about telling stories. What does it mean? Is that apart from handling strictly numerical information, data science, and more specifically business intelligence, is about visualizing the findings and creating easily digestible images. And these images must be supported only by the most relevant numbers. Nowadays, we have what's called data journalism. I don't know in this class, in this March intake, if you have anyone who is a journalist, because in other intakes, I've had students who are working as journalists and editors and so on. Nowadays, we have what's called data journalism. If you see how various newspapers present their information nowadays, you find out that they are presenting in form of infographics. And infographics is like dashboards and so on that are used to, like they are presenting their information in forms of summaries and so on. So, um, as a business analyst, intelligence analyst, you must ensure that all levels of management should be able to understand the insights from the data and inform their decision making. Because what happens, I think our colleague Ferran, I don't know if he's around today, was trying yesterday, asked the question about automation. Like we have some kind of reports in the organization that are how can I put it? This kind of report are repetitive, like they don't change. So if you find such kind of task in an organization, you need to automate your work. So for instance, let us say we have these organizations that deal with pay as you go solar. Like we have one called Mkopa, we have D-Light, we have Sun King, among others. So you find out that those kind of organizations, clients pay throughout because it is a pay, they use a business model called pay as you go, like you can only use the product when you have paid. So for them, you can create dashboards that show in real time, maybe you can put them to be refreshing after every 30 minutes, that show the rate of payments received in various regions. So your manager is just able to look at the dashboards, how they are performing. Maybe this region, the coast region, is performing better than the western region or better than the central region. Then with that, interventions, they are able to put interventions to say, why is it that maybe this region is not performing better than this? Do we need to increase the number of people working in a call center so that they are able to focus in this region to be at par with other regions and so on. So, and therefore, that's why we are saying that all levels of management should be able to understand the insights from the data and inform their decision making. So, business intelligence analysts, or what you call business analytics experts, they create these dashboards and reports, and these dashboards and reports must be accompanied by graphs, diagrams, maps, and other comparable visualization to present the findings relevant to the current business objective. As I said that, first of all, when you are doing any kind of analysis, you must be aware of the business objective that you want to achieve, because that is what will guide you on the kind of analysis and um, and visualizations that you are going to use. And this one you will learn more also on statistics. We have the data visualization unit using Python. We have the W unit, which mostly focuses on data visualization, among many others. So before I proceed further on where is business intelligence or data or business analytics used, do we have a question or any point that anyone wants to add? And yeah, you can add anything you want to add, any question that you have, any point that you are seeking clarification. Anyone, in case you have, just raise your hand and ask. Yes, Philip.
So my question was, did you say there was a difference between BI analyst and a business analyst? Because if you did, I didn't catch it well.
Yes. A business analyst, uh, mostly a business analyst, what they do, they look, for instance, if as a company wants to implement an ERP system. ERP stands for Enterprise Resource Programming System, maybe that manages certain processes in organization. A business analyst assesses the viability of the project before that system is purchased, in terms of cost, in terms of adoption of the staff, and so on. That's the role of a business analyst. But a business analytics expert or a business intelligence analyst, what they do, they use historical data to tell us what happened in the past. And they do this by generating, we have seen they generate dashboards, uh, uh, they calculate KPIs and so on to be able for us to make a business decision. So I don't know if that is clear, Philip.
It's okay. It's okay. Thank you.
Before I answer Kwamboka's question, do we have anyone here who is doing computer science, software engineering? There's another course called BBIT, Bachelor of Business Information Technology. Anyone? Yes, Fiona. Uh, Maybe Fiona, you can. I don't know if it is something that you have completed or you are still a student. Yes, Fiona. You can just unmute because I want to ask you a few questions. Yeah, why are people fearing to? This is the first class. People are not speaking. Uh, are you people fearing me? I'm not. I'm not. I'm not that serious.
Oh, no, no, it's
Yes.
not regarding the computer.
Okay. Okay.
It's not regarding.
Yeah, you can ask your question then.
I'm so sorry about that. It's not, I didn't raise my hand.
Okay, no worries. What about Kwamboka? Oh, there's a lot of background. I don't know if do you mind sending your question like in the chat because okay, let me answer. Okay. What's the difference between structured and unstructured data? Okay, thank you. So, structured data, I can say it is organized kind of data. And I want to give an example. For instance, in this class, I'm having from my records, I think I'm having 19 students. And in the records that I'm having, I have your name, phone number, and email um, address. So it means that data is structured, is organized, but unstructured data is, for instance, you look at the data people are posting in social media, like images, voice notes, text, and so on. That is unstructured data. It means that it is not organized. So, and most of the unstructured data is the modern type of data. And when I'm talking about the modern type of data, I'm talking about big data. While structured data mostly is traditional data that most organizations have. I hope that is clear, Apamboka, Brenda. Okay, thank you. In case there's yes, Ephraim.
Uh, Good evening.
Good evening.
I'll just maybe point of my view if I've got it right. On the BI analyst is you do analysis of the data that you have, giving a forward or a predictive way of the business, where there may be the business analyst, you just use past data just to come up with maybe the analysis of the whole maybe business or something. Maybe is it right or am I wrong?
Okay, thank you, Ephraim. When we are talking about business analyst, remove the uh, the issue of data totally. A business analyst is someone who looks at the system requirements. Like when an organization wants to implement a new system, remember there will be costs that will be incurred by that organization. So a business analyst assesses, like in terms of the existing hardware, will be the system that will be purchased be compatible with this existing hardware, or is the organization going to incur additional cost in terms of what? In terms of purchasing those systems that are compatible with the existing hardware. In terms of employees, what is the skill level of the employees in adapting this new system? Does it mean as an organization we need to incur cost in terms of training the employees with regards to the uh, uh, new system and so on. So, so that is what normally happens. So therefore, with regards to that, I'm saying that a business analyst is totally different. I can try to compare them with who. Like for instance, it's like someone who does a feasibility study, like a feasibility study to know the viability of that project that the company wants to do in terms of technology. But a business analytics expert or a business intelligence analyst is now someone who focuses on data. They use historical data to create dashboards, reports, to come up with graphs, diagrams, maps, and so on to present the findings relevant to the current business objective, the findings of what happens. Like, for instance, if in quarter 1 the business was supposed to generate, based on the projections, you are able, maybe it was projected that the business will generate 20 billion US dollars. But now, after now, quarter 1, the business intelligence analyst will take the historical data, come up with dashboards and so on, to look at what the business did and so on. So there's totally the difference between the two, Ephraim. I hope that is clear.
Yeah, it's clear now. Thank you.
Okay. Let me look at another question. No. Data analytics analyst and differs from a data analytics expert. No, there's no difference with regards to that. So the next is we want to look at where is business intelligence used. But as you know, in my classes we do have 15 minutes break. Before we can look at this, I want to give you the 15 minutes break. We come back at 9:10 East African time. That's about 8:10 Malawi time. So we can have a 15 minutes break, then we come back at exactly that time. We look at where is this business intelligence used. So I can pause my seconds. I try to retrieve that data. Let me try to retrieve one of the IBEC past paper. So IBEC exam. Just a minute. I hope I'll exam project exam, because I want to download that data. Yeah. Just a bit patient, be a bit patient so that we don't procrastinate, but just we Yes, Sam, as I'm opening this, you can ask your question.
I'm wondering, from your experience in the industry, is it applicable in terms of all these could assume this should be it's part of it's like more of a departmental kind of thing. Like let's say there's a business intelligence analyst. Like this one, according to your definition here, according to the definition here, means it's more of a spokesperson. After the developer has extracted, has done all the processing, then he or she comes in and does the analysis, which I think is that the case for
Like
business intelligence analyst
like
specifically.
like they work with consultants, or what do you mean?
I
What?
mean, like BI analyst focuses
Mhm.
primarily on analysis and reporting of past historical data, which has been extracted by maybe an engineer, and then business intelligence developer comes in and cleans and do the processes, and then intelligence analyst, from how I see it, then does the visuals. Is that
Okay.
the case?
Based on my experience,
Yes.
first of all, most organizations do not have the money to hire business intelligence analyst, then hire another one, a business.
Night. Good night.